Hello, everyone. Welcome to another special conference edition of the Spotlight series. I'm joined today by the amazing speaker at Conference 2017 and also now in 2019, Zach Spuckler. Welcome, Zach.
Hi, Tash. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so cool to have you on the Spotlight series once again. And of course, to have you on stage at Conference, coming all the way from the US of A. Now, for those people who aren't familiar with your work, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about your business and how you help entrepreneurs?
Sure. So my name is Zach Spuckler. My company is Heart, Soul, and Hustle. And we work with digital-based businesses to help them leverage challenges, launches, Facebook ads, to really maximize their reach, sell more digital products, digital services. Really, we work with the digital entrepreneurs. So that can be course creators, coaches, consultants, and we teach them how to really leverage 5-day challenges and launches specifically to maximize their conversions so that when they're bringing a lead into their business, they're getting the absolute highest value that they can out of them while simultaneously serving their customers in a way that feels good.
Awesome. Such a sexy intro. Well done. I think you've done that a few times before.
Maybe.
So I thought today we could have a conversation about, first of all, challenges, because you are the challenge king of the internet. And I know you've been launching your 5-figure challenge program recently as well. So why do you think 5-day challenges and challenges in particular are such an amazing lead magnet for launch?
Oh my gosh, there's so many reasons, and I could go on for days, but one of the things that I love to say is they are one of the most effective and forgiving launch mechanisms out there. So when you look at things like webinars are great and we love webinars, but the reality is webinar registration costs are expensive to get the leads. Attendance rates are lower. People are really, especially in the B2B space, are privy to the fact that it's a 1-hour pitch for your course, and then they're going to have to make a decision in the next 48 hours, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas with a challenge, you get a full 5 days to build trust and authority with people. So we recommend 5-day challenges. So you can do 7, you can do 3. We've seen success. We really don't recommend more than 7. We really don't recommend less than 3. I'm partial to 5 because that's what I teach. But basically, you get the opportunity to really connect with your market over the course of 5 days. And, think about how powerful it is to get somebody a result as opposed to giving them information, right? Very rarely are people running around going, oh, the problem is that I just don't have enough information to act on. They're like, I'm overwhelmed, I'm exhausted, I don't know how to get leads, I don't know how to get sales. But when you do a challenge, you get to get them a result every single day. And imagine how much easier it is to get someone to work with you who's gotten to work with you for free, gets to see what your experience is like, and then can decide, is this the right person for me? It takes all the focus off of you have to be the expert, you have to be the leader, and it gives all the focus on them as they get to get results, they get to be in a community, they get to go through this experience together. So, maybe I'm a little passionate, but I think that 5-day challenges are the way to launch a product because they are so forgiving. And then, I keep saying that they're forgiving, but what does that really mean? Well, we had a student who on day 3 of her challenge was like, oh my gosh, people are asking me all these questions that have nothing to do with the course I'm going to sell at the end. And we were like, then sell something else. And she basically outlined a course that offered solutions to the question people were getting, and she sold it, and she had a profitable challenge because it's so forgiving. But when you're doing a webinar or an email promotion, you can't be like, oh, well, I changed my mind, I'm not selling this at the end of the webinar. I mean, you can, usually that doesn't go super well. But you can do that in a challenge. So they're just this great way to give you the focus as an authority, to put all the focus on them as the experience. You get to be the expert and the guide. They get to go through the experience, and then you get the opportunity to do whatever you need to do to make it convert. So
yeah. Super awesome. And I see this myself as well, particularly when people are in startup. I see them use webinars really effectively because the audience that they're talking to is usually a lot warmer than when you're going for the cold lead conversion. And so I guess that leads into the next question, which is about, well, you've touched on that you've got more of an opportunity to convert people into clients. Conversion is something that you're going to be sharing with us at conference. So, what are some of the details about a challenge that are actually giving you those extra opportunities to convert, or really maximizing the conversion, particularly for cold leads into sales? Let's break it down. Yeah.
Well, one of the biggest things is like, we just have to acknowledge the elephant in the room, which is like, look, someone who met you on Monday is less likely to buy from you than somebody that met you on Monday 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Right. So that's just like the fact. Your warm market always converts higher than your cold market. But through the lens of like a challenge or even a webinar or, you know, a video series, like it doesn't matter what you're doing. There's a couple of things that maximize your conversion. And the first one is warming people up. So you can warm people up in a variety of ways. You can give them free content. You can, sometimes we like overthink that and we're like, well, I have to write blog posts and I have to do podcasts and I have to do this and I have to do that. But we just went through a training on creating webinars. And one of the suggestions was to shoot an onboarding video. And so we had an onboarding video before people ever got to the webinar. They watched a video every single day. They weren't 30-minute videos. They were like 2.5-minute videos that was basically a story arc. It's from Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets book, or .com Secrets book. I don't know which one. It's from a book that basically called the soap opera sequence, where you tell this story. And we just told a story and it warmed people up, people who might not have been familiar with us or people who had been colder in our audience, and it warmed them up before we got them there. So the first thing you can do is warm people up. And that can be for months, that can be for days, but get people warm. The second thing is creating an offer that is irresistible and in alignment with what your people want. So one of the biggest mistakes that I think marketers make is they're like, yeah, but I'm really good at this, right? And I should put a little disclaimer here that like, you are probably a marketer if you're watching this. And sometimes we're like, well, I'm not a marketer, I'm this, or I'm not a marketer, I'm a business owner, right? But if you're a business owner, you are a marketer because you have to market yourself to get products. And as marketers, we tend to make this grave error where we say, well, I'm really good at this, so that's what I'm going to teach, right?
Yeah.
And like one of the things that I'm really great at is ordering pizza. Like I'm really good at it. I can call up Papa John's. I don't know if you guys have Papa John's over there.
No,
maybe.
But we get it.
Okay, perfect. You're getting the analogy. I can call them up anytime and I'm great at ordering a pizza. Just because I create a course on how to order a pizza doesn't mean anyone's going to buy it. Your expertise is not what's in demand. You need to solve problems. And so there's this intersection of messaging and offer where it's like your messaging needs to tell people, here is why my offer is irresistible. And then your offer needs to be in alignment with your messaging of, here is an irresistible offer. So sometimes we get caught up, but especially it's easy for me because I'm in the B2B space to use those as examples, but it's the difference between saying I sell an Instagram course and I sell a course that teaches you how to get 5 coaching clients a month.
Yeah.
Right? They could both be an Instagram course, but which one are you more likely to enroll in if your current struggle is, I need more coaching clients? So we have to find this intersect of messaging and offer. And I think the other big thing is like, this is something that I'm always working on. Like we were just talking before we got on that we're about to do this big experiment where we change our messaging and change our positioning a little bit. And maybe it'll boost our conversions, maybe it won't. But that brings me to the third point, which is like, we try our best to live and die by the numbers. So are your ads actually converting? Are your leads actually converting? So one of the other things that we see people do is they're like, well, I got a 4% conversion and that's great. But one of the things that we've started doing is saying, well, what actually came from ads? Like I remember somebody showed me their launch debrief. I don't remember who it was, but they were like, look at my debrief. And I remember this was the first time I saw it. And they were like, this is my direct return on ads. And this is my overall return total. And it's little things like that that we don't think about. That's like, how effective actually are your ads? How many of us have gone into a launch, been like, I'm going to spend $2,000 on ads. We make 10,000. We're like, I 5X my ad spend. But what if you only 3X your ad spend and the other 4.5X or however the math would work out came from your warm audience? Maybe there's benefit to warming up your audience more the next time, or honing in your messaging to your cold audience. So I think that those 3 things, we're going to see if I can remember all 3 now. It's like a test. Messaging and offer, living by the hours and then warming them up. Those three things can really help you maximize your conversions.
Yeah, I think this is really awesome. And I think also there's a lot of things that we think we need to do those things. Like I was just sitting here thinking, like, warming up your audience. Sometimes that's as simple as them being familiar with your face, because we want to buy from someone that we know. And, you know, and I was just saying, like, this, you here at your computer under that beautiful blue glow, like that's how we know you, right? Like this creates connection. This is actually a high conversion strategy for a lot of people, is being real on camera and showing up as themselves and being consistently showing their face and consistently being on camera and doing Facebook Lives. It doesn't have to be this complex, you know, series of 8 videos or, you know, those sort of the soap opera arc. Like that's a very advanced strategy. Sometimes it's just as simple as showing your face more consistently online, and that warms people up. Or showing your face during a webinar. I went to a webinar and the person had 0 photos of themselves on their slides. So I left the webinar not knowing what the person looked like. Now for me, that sense of disconnect, it does factor in consciously or subconsciously into whether I feel like I know that person and I'm ready to buy from them if I can or can't see their face. So we've got another amazing speaker at conference, Emma Vega Malta, who's going to talk about consistency of your visual presence. Like even just having the same colors show up consistently means that, you know, when people see polka dots of this color, they think of me, they think of my business, and that can be enough to create that sense of connection for people. I had someone whose husband tagged me in a photo on Facebook because he saw a pin board with discolored polka dots in the background. And I was like it was the lady's husband who just saw it and was like, oh my God, Tash Corbin, it's your pin board. Now to me, that's like a huge difference. I mean, Emma came up with these dots, right? So it's those sorts of things that can often increase conversion and we're not even conscious of it. So I think it's a really complex topic, and I'm really excited that we have someone of your expertise and experience who's going to be able to help us understand how we can increase conversion. So Zach, I want to know from you, what are the big mistakes that you see people make when they're in launch? Like what are the things that you're like, no, what are some of the doozies? I want to know. I have fun with these.
One of the biggest mistakes we see is people who are like, I'll get it done while it's happening.
No.
Oh my gosh, I used to do that. So that was me. That was me when I first started. I'd be like, oh, I'll webinar at 9 p.m., 8 a.m. sounds like a great time to start creating those slides. And here's the screwed up thing. For some of us, it works. Like, especially if you're like I'm a chronic procrastinator. I will do everything last minute. Like we just updated a program and the updates were due at midnight and I was up at 6 a.m. that day, like, better record, better update this slide. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? I have 4 hours left. So that's me. And I still do it sometimes, but it's a huge mistake. And a lot of people, you think, what is that saying? You overestimate what you can do in a day and underestimate what you can do in a year.
Yeah.
So you have to realize, like, look, it is going to benefit you to not be writing your sales emails 2 hours before they go out. It is going to benefit you to have your webinar done a week in advance. It's going to benefit you to know what your Facebook ads look like. Like one of the things we do now is we create a full-blown Facebook ad schedule. And we do this with our clients and our students. We recommend it, but basically we know what ads are going out at what time, what type of ad they are, what the creative looks like, what the text looks like. Everything is mapped out before it ever has a chance to happen. And so my ads person, like I don't have conversations with my ads person where I'm like, what do we do? I have conversations with my ads person where I'm like, here's what we're doing. Here's how we're doing it. Now let's collaborate on the strategy to make this happen as effectively as possible. Yeah. And by being prepared, whether you have an ads person or not, the only reason I even mention that isn't so you're like, oh my gosh, Zach has an ads person, right? It's so that you can start collaborating with yourself or your team or your VA, where you're no longer asking the question, how do we get this out right away? You're asking quality questions like, how do we maximize conversions? What do we need to do to make this happen? How can we make this an easier process? You can really create the space for yourself to ask those questions when the question isn't, how am I going to do this in 2 hours? So a little bit of a rant, something I've done myself, but and something that really
particularly in repeat launching as well, right? So the first time you might fly by the seat of your pants a little. Having a plan is always more helpful, but you're learning as you go. But the big lesson for me, I think it was 2016, I was on my 4th launch of the same program, and I was still flying by the seat of my pants, and I was still hitting about the same sales numbers. About 30 people joined the program, and it felt easy and it felt fun, and I was like in the high of it. But it wasn't until I actually systemized that launch and started looking at each of the launch elements and how they could be improved, and getting them prepared in advance and freeing myself up to be more present and more warming my audience. Hashtag that's what Zach just said to do. It was when I freed myself up to do those things that the launches actually started getting better results. And there's still, for me, like there's still so much more improvement that I can do in systemizing those launches. But until I started systemizing them and having a plan and having a lot of it mapped out in advance, there was no room for improvement. There was no space for me to get creative. There was no space for me to show up in a different way. So I agree with you 100% on that one, for sure. Any other good doozy mistakes that you see in launch?
Ooh, oh my gosh, yes. Obsessing over Facebook ad costs. It's one of my all-time favorites, because so many people ask the question, is this a good cost per lead? And I'm always quick to be like, it really, really depends. So I have one friend who gets like 40-cent leads. It's crazy. They're cheating. I don't know how they're doing it. And then I have another friend who's getting $5 leads. And the reality is, I just had a conversation with that person, and they were like, yeah, we're getting this great return on our ads. I'm so happy. These ads are cheap. And I was like, really, what makes you say that these ads are cheap? Because I talked to a lot of people who are like, $3 to $5, that's not cheap, that's expensive. Talked to a lot of people who feel that way. And they were like, well, because here's the thing, my earnings per lead, how much I make on every lead, is like 6 times what I'm spending. So these ads are cheap because I'm getting a 6x return on my investment.
Yeah.
And that is one of the biggest mistakes people make. And they get really wrapped up in this, I call it like the romanticizing of launches, because you see the big numbers. Like the reason that you see the big numbers is because those are the people with like the biggest reach and the biggest audience. And like people don't run around going like, I just had a $12,000 launch, and like, let me write up my full launch debrief and email my list about it and create a course on it. Right. But that's happening way, way, way more than the $1.2 million launch that Susie from the block, who is a real marketer, just had, right? So I think a lot of people get tripped up, but what you have to realize is that the big pushback I get when I say this is, well, I don't have $10,000 to spend. So how am I going to have a $30,000 launch if I need X number of leads? Well, you don't on day one. You have a $2,000 launch, then you have a $10,000 launch, then you have a $30,000 launch. Like, we're going to go try to have a 6-figure launch in a few weeks, and we're budgeting multiple 5 figures on Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Well, we couldn't do that if we didn't have multiple 5 figures. Well, we wouldn't have multiple 5 figures if we hadn't had our previous launch and our previous launch and our previous. It compounds, and you build up the money to invest back in the business. That is like how businesses work, whether you are on the launch model or the e-commerce model, or you're on a model that's all service and consulting based. In order to invest back in your business and hire employees, coaches, consultants, advertisers, graphic designers, it doesn't matter. You have to generate that revenue to put it back out. And so it's, the thing was like, worry about Facebook ads. And now I feel like I'm way out in left field, but the connection is like, look, you have to be willing to spend on ads and scale with time. And the sooner you get used to this, I'm going to scale over the long run mentality, the easier it is for you to digest. Maybe I only can generate 100 leads this first launch.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because I'm going to make enough money to generate 200, then 4, then 10.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. And I would say, like, that's a big mistake I see people make as well, is they launch something, then they go off and launch something else. And then they come up with this next level mastermind membership thing, and they go launch that. And by the time they circle back to relaunch the first thing, they've lost all of that audience, because they've been talking about different topic areas, or they've been talking about different levels of business. And like, that's my biggest launch advice to people, is launch the same thing 3 times in a row without launching anything else in between. because you stay on message, you keep that audience warmed up, you keep creating content that's completely relevant to the people who just joined your list, and you learn and scale as you go. But there's so much resistance to that because people think that they need to model off some of the big marketers who they have a course and they have a $12 book and they have a membership and they do retreats with VIP masterminds. And so I need to launch all of those things in quick succession. But often what I'm seeing now is, I mean, I've seen it for you as well, like people are closing stuff down because they see how difficult it is to jump from thing to thing to thing. And we simplify to amplify. We amplify our reach, we amplify our message, we amplify our results when we actually simplify down to our core, like our wheelhouse and our one thing that we really want to stay focused on. And I've gone from 38 products in 2017 to 5. And it's taken me 2 years to do that. And it was a huge lesson for me in not following that, like, oh, I need to have this now, I need to have that, oh, and I'm going to sell this as well. And I think a lot of that also can come from like fear or the fear of missing out, or those people aren't ready for that big major course that I'm promoting, so I need to create something smaller for them. And some people can only pay like a monthly membership, so I'm going to have a monthly membership as well. And we're trying to serve everyone, but in the end, we end up speaking to no one because we're so scattered in our messaging and what it is that we have to offer. And we know a confused mind says no. And if you have 37 products for people to choose from, they're going to be, it's like wandering the shelves at IKEA, right? Like there's too many things and they don't know how you can help them best and how you can best serve them. So yeah, definitely agree with you on that one as well.
Yeah. And we did, and I think you're so right. And we did that. We simplified our product offering. We basically have 2 offers right now. That's it.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I love it. We're seeing it more and more and more from people in this space. And I think it's a big reflection of what it takes to create that momentum as well with those launches and starting to scale them. Yeah. Awesome. So Zach, we know that you're speaking at conference and your topic is conversion. So it's going to be absolutely juicy. Do you have any closing thoughts or anything else you'd love to share with our listeners about conversion, 5-figure challenges, 5-day challenges, all of those sorts of things before we close up?
Yeah. The closing thought that I will leave you with is just experiment and have fun with it. And don't get so caught up in like the seriousness of it. Like, it's way more fun to play in your business than it is to be a slave to your business. And whether that means you're working, like, look, I'm all for like the ease and the flow. But I also know there are seasons in your business where you have to work 12 hours a day. Like it happens, right? And yes, you should outsource and yes, you should give stuff away. But even when you have those hustle periods, it's way more fun to be in a business where you're experimenting and playing and not taking everything so seriously. That's when the conversions happen, is when you're having fun. That's when things really start to take off, is when you're viewing everything as a big experiment. That's when things really start to happen for you, is when you're not saying, oh my gosh, I have to make this work. And you're saying, oh my gosh, I get to try this new thing. It's going to be so fun. So that's what I'll leave you with, is have fun, experiment, get to do things, don't have to do things. And that will make a world of difference in your conversion in ways that you can't measure with a percentage.
Yeah, I love that so much. So if you're listening along and you'd love to come and learn from Zach at the Heart Center Business Conference, head to ladyposse2019.com and use the promo code ZAC and you'll get $100 off your ticket as well. The conference is on the 14th to 17th of March 2019 in Brisbane, Australia, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much, Zach, for joining me here on the Spotlight series.
Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. And until next time, beautiful peeps, we cannot wait to see you shine. A big love from us and bye for now.